Oh, here I am. There we go. All
It is
right,
there.
okay.
Hello, hello.
Hello, good morning, good morning. It's just this. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, good, good. Okay.
Oh, how are you doing?
Well, in spite of all the tech issues, very well, thank you.
It's morning. Quite early there
Yeah,
by you still.
it is. Yeah, yeah. Normally I'd be getting my daughter ready for school, taking her to school right now, but um, all is well.
Good.
I'm here with you. Yes.
Yeah. Well, we just got no load shedding for the weekend. Hallelujah.
Oh,
Ah,
really?
yeah.
Okay.
Every
Oh,
now and then
wow.
we get a little surprise, but
Wow. A little carrot.
yeah. Yeah. Anyway, oh,
That's good.
what is news in Susan's world?
Well, let's see. Busyness, lots of busyness. So I'm learning how to find stillness within the busyness, learning how to love myself, love others, be compassionate with others without being overwhelmed by either my emotions or their emotions, my drama or their drama. The drama adds to the busyness, right? Well, it adds to suffering. It's the suffering, really. How we label things. We talked about that last time about how we identify things and label things and how that can make a really big difference on how you process them. And that seems to be an ongoing issue as we live in this realm. Um, and so, yeah, so now I have three daughters. We have three daughters, and they're all very involved in different things, different activities, dance and drama, theater. And this is Easter weekend, but there are also recitals and dance competitions and dramatic performances, theater performances that are taking place all at the same time. And the I think I guess the old ways of looking at it for me would be that I would feel very overwhelmed in having to juggle it all. But I'm trying to find space because, if Christ is with me and is my ever-present help in time of need, if I can acknowledge him in all my ways and he makes my path straight, that's a moment by moment, constant present help that's available to me. No matter what I'm going through, no matter what the circumstances around me are screaming at me to believe, I have that choice. And so I'm learning to tune into that more and more, especially in these, very uproarious times of celebration. I mean, great times, but also, lots of activity, lots of flurry of activities.
It's so
So,
interesting.
in a nutshell,
Yeah, it's really
I'm doing
interesting to
great.
hear you say that there's dance recitals and a bunch of stuff happening even over Easter weekend. And I think in South Africa it's a little bit different because our schools have just closed like a few days ago.
Mm,
Um, so there's really nothing happening over Easter weekend. For us, Christmas and Easter are the two big holidays when everything kind of shuts down. So everything quiets down
hmm
around this time. Um, of here, it's like, yeah, I was just wondering earlier. I wonder if the shop is going to be open on Friday. Not that I want to go, but I was just wondering because it really just all quiets down. It's not, for me thinking to have a dance recital over Easter weekend, it's just not on my grid. It's just not how we do things around here. So that's
Yeah,
really, it's just interesting
right.
how the systems kind of looks
Well, I
different.
remember when yes, yeah. And now, are your shops open on Sundays?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So that was, I mean, when I was a teenager, that came around that the retail stores were allowed to stay open on Sundays, but and maybe even an early adult. But I remember, my dad teaching me how to drive in parking lots that were empty on Sundays. And then when shops were open, it was just a different feeling. just it felt different, and I miss having those days of quiet. It's like the world just kind of seemed more
It just
settled, more calm. Yeah.
yeah, but it is like that, hey, because we just keep going. There's just
Hmm.
no stopping anymore.
Right.
No there's just no stopping anymore. You know,
Yeah, there.
even weekends, even if you don't work over weekends, it's like, especially with your parents, you know that that's when all
Mhm.
the extra stuff happens.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very much.
Okay,
Yeah.
so how do you manage through the busyness? How do you find stillness in all this craziness?
I really think it's a matter of choice and prioritizing your being above everything else. And that seems like it could be, rather unchristian or unloving. Um, but the analogy is that when you're on an airplane and you have a child, you don't put the oxygen mask on the child first. In
Hmm.
case you pass out, you put it on yourself first, and then you'll be conscious and be able to help your child or others around you. And I find that it's the same, that the more that I strive to meet everybody's expectations and fill their need with my own energy, the less energy I have and the less beneficial it is for anybody. Doesn't work out for me, it doesn't work out for them. And so it's a matter of, where do I put my attention? Where do I keep my focus? Because my focus, being in Christ and being in this spaciousness that's within me, keeps me centered, keeps me grounded, keeps me on the rock. When my attention is scattered, then I am scattered. My energy is scattered. My will and my emotions and everything having to do with my being is scattered all over the place. And so being centered, being using my attention to stay focused within me and the kingdom within me, is like putting that oxygen mask on myself first. And sometimes that means that, you hear about like moms of toddlers who need to take a few moments just to lock themselves in the bathroom. And sometimes that's what it takes. But I think that mentally we can do that even when we are in that chaos, uh, that we can actually just pause for a moment in our thinking, in our thoughts, and take a breath. That one breath, it's a conscious breath. It's a breath of, you're here with me. It just changes everything. And it helps you to tune inward, and it helps you to stay there again and again and again. The more and more that we practice that awareness of presence, the awareness of the presence of God in the breath, of spirit with the breath. And yeah, we just put that into our practice with our everyday. Then it seems that our everyday, though it might appear to be chaotic, there's a quietness within that slows everything down, that allows you to be able to make better choices and respond better, and even enjoy the moment that's going on around you. Yeah,
In and out. Let's just
yeah,
take a moment.
yeah. We should just take a moment. Let's just do that now.
Hmm.
Let's take a moment. A conscious breath. And we know, wow, here we are. Here's Christ with us. We're not alone. We're not alone. We're never alone. It's also a matter of trust. And the more that we do this, the more opportunity Christ has to show us how trustworthy he is for us in the moment. And the more our capacity to trust then grows, which is beautiful because it just builds your relationship with Christ and the intimacy that you feel with Christ, because he's always here in the secret place. Sometimes it's hard to find him in that flurry of activity, but the more that we seek him, um, we see that he's also seeking us at the same time. So,
Hmm. In the stillness.
mhm, yeah, that stillness.
Hmm. I think that we had that in the last conversation as well. As I think that that is the one thing that the world is missing at the moment. It's the ability to just be quiet, to just embrace the quietness. Um, I love stillness. I love quietness. I rarely listen to music. I don't read the news at all. Um, my brother said yesterday, "Oh, did you see what happened in Maryland?" I'm like, no, no. And then I actually actively had to go see what's happening, but I'm really oblivious to what is happening. And that is a choice that I made to kind of keep myself in that space where it's easier to obtain stillness. That it's easier to just step into a place of, okay, and I feel like for me, it feels like being able to just step into that or to just be that, because it's not really not something I'm stepping into. It's really just part of who I am, that I have to access is that stillness. But for a long time, and I was afraid to access that stillness because that stillness kind of freaks me out. That stillness is a place like, oh dear, what to do with this? Because our nervous system don't know what to do with. I'm not doing anything. I'm not. We've just been trained and we just grew up in this space that you always need to do something, or you're lazy,
Mhm.
or you
Yes.
procrastinate. That is
Mhm.
such a word that I hate the word procrastination, because not everybody is
Mhm.
procrastinating. Um,
Yes.
Sometimes we just need to be, and especially I'm creative. A lot of what
Mhm.
is happening in my creative space is when I'm doing nothing. It might look like
Yes.
I'm doing nothing, but I'm actually
Mhm.
writing a book in my head.
That's right.
I'm creating something that is growing inside of me.
Mhm.
But stillness is a very scary place.
Very much so.
Um, and oh yeah, stillness.
Mhm.
Do we dare to be still? Do we dare to go there, to that
Mhm.
place of, because it really feels like it takes guts to step into that place, or to
Absolutely.
become aware of that place where there is just absolute quietness. And now we might be talking about sound, and we might be talking about quietness, and that's a great idea. But I think when I'm talking about stillness, it's more about that space where you come to a place of nothingness, where nothing is happening. It's more a place of
Mhm.
nothingness, I think, than a place of stillness. Um,
Yeah.
where there's just, some of us refers as it is the void. Um,
Mhm.
Although I think the void might already be deeper into, um, you know, but you can be on the outskirts of the voice and still experience stillness. Um,
Mhm.
but how do we push? How do we push past that fear? How do we push past that thing that scares us?
Mhm. For me personally, I recommend not pushing so hard that it creates a resistance or a frustration, or judgment or condemnation, because that can happen sometimes. Oh, why can so and so sit there for hours and I can't sit for a couple of minutes without feeling agitated, and there must be something wrong with me, and I have to try harder, I have to push harder. And you're creating the activity that you want to actually just observe and witness and allow to pass by you, but you're creating it and you're actually being sucked up into it when you do those things. um, I
I want
love
to
the scripture. Yeah,
I
go
want to put
ahead.
a red alert on the screen. Don't go there. That's not what I'm talking
Don't go
about.
there. Don't whoop, 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 whoop. Yeah.
That's not what I'm talking about. Stop.
Yeah. That's what we need load shedding from, actually.
Exactly.
Can we shed that load?
Yeah.
How do we create a program for that? So this is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Um, I love that verse where Jesus says, when he's talking about John the Baptist, when he talks about that the kingdom of heaven suffers violence, and the violent take it by force. And it makes me think of, John the Baptist having such zeal and passion for Jesus's, ministry that he felt, completely convinced that the Roman government was then going to be overthrown and Jesus was going to become the leader. So much so that he spoke up against the government and he got his head cut off. And that's the balance that I'm talking about, because what happens is when we push ourselves, our kingdom, our the kingdom within our body, because we know that the kingdom is within our body, then suffers violence. So we suffer things like anxiety, we suffer frustration, we suffer all those negative emotions, which can, cause and keep us open to, health, any number of what's the word, dis-eases, right? Um, and it keeps us in that pattern of dis-ease or unease or unrest. And so what I suggest for those who find it very difficult to sit still even for a moment or two is just to pause. When they get up in the morning, just pause for a moment and just take a breath, feel the breath come into the body, and just notice the sensations that arise when you take that breath, when you take that conscious breath. Feel your body arise. Can you feel your belly inflate when you take a breath? Or maybe it's your chest if you're breathing, shallowly. And that awareness is really the beginning point of still. When you can become aware of how you are responding, how your body is responding, and aware of the things that are going on within you, you're turning your inward. You are seeking first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and you're allowing him to bring those things to you so that you can then evaluate. um, I don't want to say judge, because it brings a negative connotation, but we can look at ourselves and say, wow, a couple of minutes and my mind is already active. I just can't sit still with quietness for a couple of minutes. But it's not a bad thing. That's a good thing that I'm aware of it, that I can have courage and I can face that. And I don't put myself down for that. This because I know that as I'm aware, God does something with that awareness. God is in that awareness, and he's the one that makes the changes within you. So bringing that awareness, that attention to yourself with compassion, because that's how Christ reacts to us, is with compassion, with love, with support. We look at ourselves and think, well, I can only sit for a minute or two. That's okay. I'm still loved. Christ loves me, and I'm going to love myself, even though it's a couple of minutes. And if you do that in the morning and you do that before you go to bed, those are those two prime moments of the day when we're still in that kind of theta state. We're not quite in beta, active, figuring things out state. Those are really good opportunities, just when you wake up and when you're just falling asleep, to bring that awareness into practice. Body awareness, breath awareness, and it softens your thinking mind. It softens that activity that, I have to do all these things, get all these things done, because you're looking deeper, you're looking inward. And just that, if you do that for a few weeks, you'll notice that there's more of a pause, there's more of a duration in how long you can stay in that quietness. And then you can do that throughout the day when you think of it. When you take a bathroom break, for example, instead of going on your phone, can you just sit and feel, like really feel, like I'm talking even like if you're in the on the potty, feel the body, feel what's happening with the body in that moment, be aware of subtleties, more and more, and bringing that awareness. You're bringing Christ into the present moment with you. You're bringing the awareness that Christ is with you in that moment. That causes the expansion. Those are the little mustard seeds that are planted that become the big trees in the garden that Jesus talks about.
Well, that's beautiful. That
Yeah.
is beautiful. And once
Yeah.
again, one minute or 2 minutes or just that breath is already more than yesterday, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, let's not judge that. Let's not,
Yeah.
you know, I can't
That's
run a marathon. there's no way. But if I can just walk up the street or at least walk for 10 minutes, that is um, at least that's more than yesterday,
It's
or if I
beautiful.
can just um, get out of the house, that is. So not trying to, I can't do this, I can't sit like forever. But there
Hmm.
is something, and you said we shouldn't push, and yes, I agree. I'm past the pushing part of my life.
Yeah.
I'm not pushing anymore. But sometimes if you go on an adventure, on some kind of adventure, and the image I see where you were speaking is, if you want to do bungee jumping or you want to do,
Yeah.
something that is really out of the ordinary, and sometimes you need to actually jump. you know,
Mm-hmm.
to
Yes.
push past the fear, to kind
Yes.
of
Yes.
overcome, maybe push is not the right word, but to overcome the fear. Yeah,
Hmm.
I want to do it. I want to do it. And, at some point, the fear can either hold you there and turn around, I'm not going to do it, or the fear can be the catalyst to actually push you over,
Hmm.
um, and overcoming the fear and feel the thrill
Hmm.
of it. So there is, we all have to see and stepping into that, well, actually into any situation, but we're talking about stillness now. But at some point, we need to make the conscious decision to say,
Hmm.
yes, I'm going to do this.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
I'm going to at least try this.
Yeah.
I'm going to put on the shoes to go for a walk and then actually go for a walk, because I can put on the shoes as well every day and not do the work. you know, um,
Absolutely.
you know,
It's a good first step, though.
yeah, yeah,
If
it
that's all that
is.
you can do, if that's all the capacity that you have, you need to celebrate that.
It's
But
true.
you're right that at the same time, you can go further. You're
Yes,
building capacity, and I think that's the thing to be
exactly.
aware of. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So that
Yeah.
is yeah, but it for me it's probably one of the most powerful tools, and I never would have thought that I would say that,
Mm,
but being able to
yeah.
recognize stillness, and in many cases in my life rest and live from that place of stillness is really probably some of the most powerful tools that I have in my little tool shed.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
just wanted to jump in and say that that stillness isn't necessarily a stillness or a refrain from activity. It
Yeah.
is it is a centered space within that you can be in more and more and more as activity is going on around you, or you are yourself involved in activity. You can be, doing any number of things that you normally do throughout your day and still be in that stillness. So it's not a refrain from activity. It's an inner stillness
Yeah.
where, yes, that's really where your energy comes from, and life flows. Jesus talks about rivers of living water coming from your innermost being. That's that place. Hmm. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
calmness. Hmm.
right.
Yeah.
Calmness and a wholeness. There's what happens is we begin to retrieve or call back pieces of ourselves that have been scattered all around our being, in different places in the past and in the future, and stuck in memories and emotions, and places where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth, and where we might have even condemned ourselves to hell, or been trying to run away from fears and things like that. Those parts of us are still um, out there somewhere, and we can bring them back into the body, into the present moment with us, to help us to feel much more whole and much more secure and much more stable. So then those pieces and parts of us that seem to be out there somewhere that we don't actually want to, or don't have the capacity to face, perhaps it's a very traumatic experience in our past, and there might be child parts of us who hold those emotions because we don't want to face them, we don't want to feel them. When we are in that place of stillness, more and more often, then when we connect with those memories and those sensations of those emotions, we have the capacity to loosen up the dial on how much we can feel and release. And so it doesn't have to be a huge cathartic moment where everything is gone and finished at once. It can just be a little small release that we're aware of, that we know that we have capacity to face, that we have courage to face, because we've already built in some kind of grid within us to be able to handle a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And so then as we release those traumatic feelings and emotions and memories and sensations, those parts of us again integrate with us. Those emotions then begin to fuel our energy in a way that supports us instead of makes us feel defeated and deflated.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm remembering something now. A few weeks ago, I met a lady for the first time, and we were visiting, and we had a great time. But sometimes during the conversation, and I realize I do that, I never realized I made her uncomfortable by that. But I am very, as I said, I'm very comfortable with uncomfortable silences. I'm like
Yes. Yeah.
thinking, and she wasn't. So she
Mm-hmm.
just, and at the end, it was really interesting. At the end of the conversation, she said, "Oh, I was just rambling on," and I was like, "Yeah, you kind of were," and but from a place of, it was a really, she said, "But you just keep quiet, and then I don't know what to say." And then she just,
Yes.
and I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize I did I did that, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize how uncomfortable I let her feel. But that is kind of, and I think for me, stillness is we talk about that space where hurt can come up, trauma can come up, and that's what we're afraid of, but stillness is really for me that place of trusting God and knowing
Mm-hmm.
that He's in there, that He
Yes.
is in the stillness. That
Mm-hmm.
when we become aware of that, that is really, because why don't we want to go there? Most of the time, I don't want to go there or I don't want to go deeper into something or to a place of stillness because I don't know Him well
Mm-hmm.
enough to trust Him that when I
Yeah.
go there, that I'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that just kind of came out of that conversation with that lady, is she didn't know me well enough to know that she'll be okay, and
Yeah.
that we will be okay, and that me
Yes.
not saying anything to her. And sometimes God is also quiet,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes He is also,
Absolutely.
and then we don't know what to do with the quietness. I mean, you're quiet and I'm quiet and all of us is quiet and nobody is saying anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um and but it feels like, for me personally, it feels like when there's that quietness from His side, is to draw in even deeper. um
Absolutely.
because that
Yes.
is, it's such a paradox, but it's really, for me, it's like Him just saying, come closer, just come in
Mhm.
deeper, just find
Yes.
yourself in me even more.
Yeah. Yes.
um you
And you
know
become more complete even though nothing is actually happening that you're aware of.
nothing is being said,
Yes.
but there's
Nothing's
healing
being
in
said.
that intimacy, in that absolute, and yeah, I'm not married, but I imagine that when you're married and long, with that, in your relationship, there's places where stillness is really comfort, and just a knowing that, you can sit in the same room not talking for hours, but there is companionship, friendship, healing, safety,
Yes.
all of
Mhm.
that within a relationship. And I think that's what God is calling us to, is that place
Mhm.
of intimacy, that place of just being with Him, not doing
Yes.
with Him. Um,
Yes.
it comes back to Martha and Maria. I'm thinking in Afrikaans now, Martha and Maria.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But then,
Mary and Martha. Yeah.
Mary and Martha, that one, and how they were. But I think He's just drawing us in, and just come in, come in, come in, come in,
Mhm.
come closer. Um, in in this presence, even though nothing is said, there's healing. In this
For sure.
presence, even nothing is being said or done. Isn't that beautiful?
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Um, and it's such a it is such a contradiction to what the world feels is productive. But the fact of the matter is nothing is more productive than just sitting with God. Just the exchange of awareness, gazing at one another. Um, there's something that um, you can't even put words to it. The stability, the strength, the security, the sense of connection that comes without praying, without saying any word, is it's far more productive than, I mean, I remember used to pray in tongues. Every time I would step in the shower, I trained myself that I would step in the shower, and as soon as I felt the water, I'd begin to pray in tongues. And because I thought it was that activity, it was that fervency that would help me to be more productive in my walk, in my journey. Um, but not that there's no place for that. There of course is a place for that, but I think that when we hear the voice behind us saying this is the way, walk ye in it, I think that's the difference. And we hear the voice only when we're quiet, because if we're rambling on, we're not going to hear the voice. So the quietness is absolutely fundamental to life. We need to be in that. It's like a womb space, and know that we're connected by umbilical cord, to receive every nutrient and every sustaining element that we need in order to exist. Yeah, it's a beautiful
Mm.
space to be in. And I would say that you're giving your friend a taste of what God is like with that stillness. Is an invitation for her to be able to be aware of how uncomfortable it makes her feel to be that quiet, and perhaps even ask, not ask, but just to be curious. Well, I wonder why that makes me feel uncomfortable,
Well,
and to go from there.
it's very interesting because she immediately said that I felt like I was doing something wrong and you didn't like me.
Oh,
And none of
yes.
that. So immediately the stillness do exactly what stillness do to us
Hmm.
is it immediately brought up her insecurities. She
Yes.
was immediately felt like I didn't accept her. I didn't want to talk to her. I didn't want to. None of that was true. None of
Right.
that was
Right.
true.
Right. Hmm.
But, and I think that is why many of us, me included, is really fearful and maybe not fearful, but treading lightly when it comes to the idea of stillness, because our
Hmm.
insecurities come to, but what if God doesn't? What if this? What if this pain is so much more than I can handle? What if, what if, what if? So we rather just keep on talking and keep ourselves busy,
Yes.
instead of embracing that that and once again, it was the first time we ever met each other. So that for that, in that space, I understand that she was, and I should have handled it differently as well. I didn't realize I was doing that. But in that space, and I think if we would see each other again, maybe 2, 3 times, that she will learn to be more comfortable with
Mm.
me, um,
Yes.
in that in that space. I will be more aware. But it is, my heart really broke for her when I realized that how me being comfortable with the stillness made her feel. But the beauty of that is God doesn't want to make us feel that way. It's like this mirror that's just coming deeper. And I think that's what I wanted to say earlier, is because we don't understand his love for us, that
Yes.
we can and have an understanding. And if you have just a small drop, just you don't even have to know it. You just have to
Taste and see that the Lord is good.
you
Just a
just
little
have to
taste.
you just
Yes.
have to have this mustard seed that he loves you. Tap into
Yes.
that mustard seed that he loves you,
It's
because that
true.
mustard seed will grow into more. He will
Yes.
trust enough that if I sit in the stillness for 1 minute, he all I'm going to experience is love.
Yes.
um
Mhm.
I'm not going to feel rejected. I'm not going to feel like a failure, because those are the feelings that still comes up to me. I'm currently in my life, it feels like my whole life has come to a point of stillness. It feels like I'm like not doing anything, and I'm not busy with anything, and I'm like the total opposite of what you said right in the beginning. It's like I'm like, just give me something to do. And so I'm living in that space of stillness at the moment, and I know that's going to change, but I also want to do something. I also want to keep myself busy, because every now and then I have to deal with, yeah, you're just doing nothing. You really just worthless. You are not. So I'm also dealing with the same things that everybody else is dealing with. The
Mhm.
same questions. It's just, I think my playground, I think, looks a little bit different than yours,
Mhm.
but we deal
Mhm.
with the same questions.
Absolutely.
And every now and then I also have to sit down and just feet on the ground, breathe, feel it into your tummy, feel it come out,
I
just
love it.
come back to,
It's
yeah.
yeah. I was just gonna say, no, I like that awareness of when I'm feeling those things, and I don't know, it's almost like this really kind of masochistic pleasure of discovering something about myself, in the darkness. And it's like, oh wow, yeah, I really feel that. Oh, interesting. Because now it's like I understand that now it's when I'm weak that I'm strong. So it's an opportunity for me to see how big I really am, or how big God really is for me with that apparent weakness. It gives me an opportunity to reframe that and look at things a different way, and see God expand in my life, see God be magnified in my life with those things. So yeah, it's kind of funny. It's like I will deliberately sit down in that stillness in order to seek out those things. And as a matter of fact, even just this morning, which I do every morning, I spend time with God, either with breath work or doing some tapping, or moving my body. That's also a very good release, and reconciling of those energies within. But one of the things that came up was that, ultimately my fear of uh, sorrow, my fear of feeling sorrow, feeling grief, feeling not just my own, but somebody else's, because somebody else's then taps into my own, has kept me from living, has kept me from enjoying life. The very thing that I am afraid of is keeping me from enjoying life to a deeper degree. And um, there's a depth to it that I could sense within myself, that somewhere in my field, in my being, that there was some part of me that connected with uh, sorrow and grief and even eternal punishment, that there was maybe a part of me that connected with the sensation of being, you know, cast into eternal punishment, which I do not believe in. I'll just say that right now. I don't believe in that anymore, but there are those who do. And I think this is something in the collective consciousness that is very much a part of most of the people on the planet, well, most Christians anyway. We have this in our programming, this concept that we will be eternally punished for making one unconscious error, one thing that I'm not even aware of, one sin that I'm not aware of, that I might be punished for eternally. So there is this deep
So
awareness of this groaning within me, and it's like, oh, there's something else that I can expand and bring God into. So it was kind of fun. I know it's kind of weird, but it was kind of fun.
I think I think another way, just for me, how I also embrace kind of just the quietness and the stillness is to step away from drama,
Yeah. Yeah.
is to step away from gossip and from drama
Mhm.
and many times I will, well, I'm going to use my brother and family once again. We just have different interests, and that is okay. But many times I will be in a conversation and we will sit around the table and they will start talking about stuff that really doesn't interest me or that I just feel is cluttering that place of peace.
Mhm.
And then I will excuse myself.
Yes.
The relationship is important, but so is my peace.
Mhm.
And I think there's finding the balance in when to continue to sit, when to engage, and when
Yeah.
to say, okay, this is enough. I'm not going to engage in this. I'm
Yes.
choosing
Beautiful.
stillness now and
Yes.
walking away from that. And and at some point I was also in a work situation, and that's more difficult to do when you're in a
Mhm.
situation where you are in working full time with somebody. But I think it is important to kind of draw a line, have a boundary, and
Mhm.
there's a certain place where I will go, but there's then a place where I won't,
Mhm.
because the stillness in me, the peace in me, that thing that I'm working for in the mornings when I get up, that 2 minutes,
Mhm.
that I have
Yeah.
capacity for, I'm not going to let you come into and steal that or kind of
Yes.
disturb, not even steal that, just disturb that, because we don't want that disturbed. So there's a
Right.
very important thing, I think, in recognizing it, in seeing it, in protecting it. That space where this is my king. This is the intimacy with God that I'm aware of now. And you with your
Mhm.
dirty hands wants to step and take away from that
Yeah,
now.
that's right. Yes, yes. Mhm.
um, and I think the main thing that I've seen with that is people is attracted to that. How do you do
Yeah.
that? How do you do that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of like you need to remove all of the layers of judgment and condemnation and guilt and shame that come with that because we've been programmed to believe that we have to put others before ourselves and that we have to make other people happy and make their life better and sacrifice our own happiness and our own enjoyment. But that's it's messed up. It's the opposite because the truth is when we can take care of ourselves, because we're sovereign beings. If we're sons of God, we're sovereign over our own beings, over our own choices. We have free will, but we also have to govern ourselves well. We need to employ the fruit of the spirit, which is self-control or self-regulation. I like to say it rather than
Mhm.
control, because that control can sometimes feel a little bit not quite beneficial. It's self-regulation. It's the ability to say, wow, there's something that's entering in my nervous system that's making me feel a little insecure right now, a little at threat, and that my anxiety might be raising up a little bit, my heart. I need to step away from this in order to govern my and govern my creation, my body, my earth, my mental health well. Because when we do that, when I step away and I do that and I tend to myself, I'm then more capable of being in a difficult situation a little bit longer. And so if we put the traditional, sacrificing ourselves spin on that, then the appearance might be that you're doing the very thing that you're supposed to be doing by being in that space a little bit longer. So, I mean, um, it might have the appearance of you know, looking more Christ-like. That's not the ambition. The ambition is I'm actually feeling more Christ-like, which then results in it affecting people in a Christ-like way. It's not even my own doing anything. It's just that I feel differently about myself. And so I can stay in this space a little bit longer, and these people can be themselves a little longer with me. And I'm not being um, provoked by them or instigated to react in any kind of fleshly way because I'm in Christ and I feel that I'm in Christ. So, and so that ultimately will benefit everybody in the room. But you can't be in that space feeling all crappy, feeling all overwhelmed and agitated and irritated and emotional and whatever, stirred up, provoked, triggered, and put on the appearance of being Christ-like, because that's not going to serve anybody. You need to
It
step
doesn't,
away, take care of yourself,
yeah,
and
it
yeah.
doesn't work that well. I don't know where this question is coming from, but I have a question. And, you know, yeah, you know that I'm the real practical one. How do we do this? But I'm thinking, we, we're talking about, and you said in the beginning, put on your mask first before you look after anyone else. You just said this is important. But young moms with a newborn baby,
Hmm.
how do we, what advice, you're a mom, you had kids, you might not
Hmm.
have known what you know now when your kids were small, but what
Hmm.
would you have wanted to know or do different in order to regulate yourself as a young
Hmm.
mom with newborns?
Yeah. And it's something that I tell my daughter all the time. I would absolutely say, feel your body, feel the couch underneath your butt, feel your feet on the floor. Bring your awareness to what's here right now and take a breath. And do that as often as you can think of it. That really just being present for yourself and resourcing yourself in whatever way that you can to support yourself, but do that awareness of your body, of your being here right now, of your breath first, and when you have an opportunity to lock yourself in the bathroom or take a bath and do all those things that are absolutely necessary for self-care, so that you can be a better parent for your child. If you have people that, I mean, a community is I think probably one of the most essential things, to have community support to help you co-regulate, to help you manage. But if you don't have that, when I was young, my husband went back to work. My parents lived far away, and my in-laws lived far. Really was on my own with my child, and it was the first time that I actually felt in my emotions and a magnetic pull to end my life. I mean, I've thought about it numerous times, of course, but I never actually felt the draw to do that until that time. And, I'm sure it was partly postpartum depression as well as circumstantial depression because I didn't have any community supporting me. But it scared me. It scared me to feel such a draw to do that, that it was such an option, that it was an actual option. Um, Scared me. And I did what I knew to do then, which was, pray in tongues and pray and ask God for help. But if I could go back then and talk to myself, then I would say, Susan, take that breath, pause, hold your baby's safe, your body's safe, you're okay, your husband will be home soon, you can call your mom, just to bring into my magnetic pull that was drawing me into options that I didn't want to actually happen, but felt very tempting, to bring other options into that space within the moment, because bringing your attention to your breath and to your body and the environment around you keeps you in the present moment. that is acknowledging God in all of your ways, and then he will direct your paths from there. So,
Sure.
yeah.
Wow. As I was just listening to you and thinking about the question as well, I'm like, how do we teach our children? How do we, you're a grandmother now, um, seeing how do we teach our children this awareness from such a young age? And I think it's just monkey see, monkey do, you know.
Yeah.
If if baby can feel that quietness and that calmness from day one, and mom knows
Hmm.
how to regulate,
Yeah.
then baby learns that from day
Hmm.
one.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then when he's old enough to understand and to see, he will learn how to do that. It's
Yeah.
really modeling. It's really modeling that.
Yes.
It's not something that we
Yeah.
have to teach them. Anyway, so I was just answering my own
Hmm.
question. But isn't that the beauty of it? Because we can now use a mom and a child, but the same thing happens in a work environment.
Yeah.
It's the same
Yeah.
thing. If you regulate yourself, there will be another monkey seeing this monkey do this and this working. So somebody
Hmm.
will ask, how are you doing this? How do we? And, you know, in that way, we actually have influence. In that way, we have the chance to transform. I remember I once had, and we had this conversation about homosexual people a few weeks ago, and I have a very, very good friend. He is the most beautiful human being, but he doesn't believe in Jesus. He believes in God, but he doesn't believe in Jesus. And we had this conversation, and because of me having an understanding about meditation and the spiritual realm that looks different, we had the most beautiful conversation. And he walked away afterwards and said, "You know what? I have never heard any Christian speak about these things like you just did."
Hmm.
And I'm like, how beautiful is having the understanding, having living it,
Hmm.
actually having an effect on creation around us.
Yeah.
Um, so if we can just learn to, once again, it comes back to awareness, it comes back to intimacy, it
Yeah.
comes back to
Yeah.
that place where we just, Lord, me and you
It
right
comes
now.
back to the stillness and the silence that,
Yeah.
is more productive than when you try to figure things out. It's more productive. And that's exactly it. Your energy, because you've been steeping in that stillness and in that quietness and in that um, vastly expansive, productivity from nothingness. Uh,
Stillness
how do you,
is more
how do you,
productive.
yeah,
We need to
yeah,
put that on a t-shirt. Stillness is more productive than
yes.
anything you can do.
Than anything that you can like put together with your thinking mind. But
Wow.
and like geniuses know this. Einstein knew this, and I mean, gurus know this, but it's when you actually begin to taste it and experience it for yourself that it begins to become real. Because it's just a concept that's out there until you begin to integrate it into your own grid, your own life. Um,
I think the
yeah, and
other,
so that stillness begins to just speak to everybody else around you too, because you've been steeping into it. You're bringing Christ and that consciousness to everybody else around you. And they don't have to believe what you believe. It's just an energy. It's a frequency that you carry, that quietness, that stillness.
oh my goodness, I love it. I love these conversations.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
but
It's
yeah.
it's the very thing, like I was thinking, it's the very thing that um I wanted to experience as a young Christian, like people would always say you're going to walk into a room and people are going to know there's something different about you. But in my experience, it was always not that. Um,
Not the different I was looking for.
not the different I was looking for. Yeah, exactly. I mean, definitely they knew I was different. but not in a good way. And so, but now I do. I know that I have an effect around the people around me, but it's not me. It's the presence that I carry. It's the presence that's within me always. It's the presence within which I am grounded and rooted and planted and so secure. And it's that awareness of my security and groundedness and stability that people feel. And I don't have to use any words to convince anybody of anything, to believe anything. I don't have to Bible thump anybody. Is that a thing that they did in South Africa? Bible thumping? Because, we got gold stars and stickers for Bible thumping. But anyway.
Yeah, yeah, let's wrap this up. But I would like to maybe next time when we connect, pick up the conversation on where does rejection fit into that?
Yeah.
Because
Oh, yeah.
what I've seen is how many times I feel rejected and I get rejected, but it's not me being rejected. It's exactly that piece that you're talking about.
Yeah.
That is being
But it all
rejected.
again comes back to that stillness, because when you feel that rejection, you recognize, well, I'm the one who's experiencing this feeling. It's not coming from that person, it's coming from within me.
Mhm.
So I can show myself compassion and give myself what I need. I accept myself. I accept myself even when I'm rejected.
Yeah, yeah. But it's most of the
Yeah.
time not me being rejected. It's the Christ
Yes.
in me being rejected.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
he was rejection. He had to be rejected so
Hmm.
that we can have this stillness. So yeah,
Yes. Yeah, that's a good conversation. The things that he took
the things
upon
that he did.
himself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But for now, thank you. Let's
Yeah.
yeah, let's do this again next week. In the
Sounds
meantime,
good to me.
have a blessed
Yippee.
Easter weekend.
Yes,
Stay
you as
safe.
well.
And yeah,
Yes.
we'll see you next
Thank
week.
you. All right. Blessings. I love you so much. Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Love you
Okay.
too. Talk soon.
Have a great
Okay.
weekend. All right.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.